Thanks for the introduction, Ash. So I want to give everybody just a little bit of an overview about our company and our product, and then we'll go into an actual demo, take a look at the application. So the first question is, what is rDCF? And rDCF has been designed to do one thing better than any other application on the planet, and that is to model commercial real estate transactions as quickly and as accurately as possible. You haven't seen anything like it since the sunsetting of Argus DCF. Yet, it's modern and even easier to use. Of course, you can use rDCF for asset management, appraisal, or other valuation-related tasks, but it exists in no small part due to our realization that after many years of lackluster, compromised CRE solutions, that our industry software providers appear to have lost touch with what the industry needs to efficiently transact properties. With rDCF, all you need is a browser, and wait until you see the output. There's nothing to install. We mentioned this true cloud as there's been a lot of what's called kind of dubious cloud with air quotes marketing being done in the industry right now. The true cloud software solution is relatively easy to spot. If you can run the app with nothing other than a browser, you're most likely looking at a modern cloud application and architecture. If your cloud app requires you to have an install script, you're probably more likely dealing with an aspirational marketing campaign in hyperbole as opposed to a true cloud app. Another thing to be especially leery of is on-premise desktop software seeking cloud subscription pricing. It's well known that cloud software has a significantly lower total cost of ownership. This arises from no additional hardware or software to purchase, no need to support the app with internal IT, no need for backup or disaster recovery, and painless upgrades, again, that don't involve your IT. That said, if you have to install software, deal with onerous version upgrades, poor Citrix performance, etc., you shouldn't be subjected to it all-in-one cloud subscription pricing because you're actively paying for the cost of desktop software, which is not insignificant. You know, it should be a litmus test when you're choosing your technology partners. Really, really simple. If the application delivery is cost-effective because it's SaaS, that's an option that you should strongly consider. If the application provider is trying to give you all-in subscription pricing when they're not providing a zero-install, browser-only solution, these types of partners aren't your friend. If they're bold enough to ask for all-in pricing without changing their licensing model, they should be avoided. Next slide. So why is rSquared uniquely qualified? Well, we were born from the most sophisticated boutique CRE consulting company on the planet, and that's Realogic. It's been a little bit of a blessing and a curse. You know, Realogic abstracts thousands of leases annually, performs complex commercial real estate underwriting on an even larger number of properties, and they've been doing so for more than a quarter of a century. They have the expertise and experience that few firms can dream of. The downside is that they're very particular and set an incredibly high bar for rDCF. It had to be a true cloud application but feel like a rich desktop application. Our analysts said it had to be fast, hotkeys everywhere. It shouldn't require a mouse. Hands should always be on the keyboard. All of the reports had to be in Excel with formulas. It had to have the best underwriting workbook in an industry that generally has eschewed a standard for underwriting. And they should never, ever have to copy and paste values from a static report to analyze or underwrite the property. It also needed to have unsurpassed import and export capabilities. You know, lucky for us, we've had spent the better part of a decade creating true enterprise SaaS applications. One for budgeting and one for lease abstraction. Those are called rBudget and rAbstract. And these apps are still being used by some of the largest, most sophisticated CRE clients. We also created the first industry standard Excel add-in for property and portfolio underwriting. And you're going to see later in our demo how much those dividends have enhanced our new offering, rDCF. In summary, rSquared is that unique company that understands the needs of the CRE valuation space because we have lived it. rDCF is made by CRE experts for CRE experts. Our reLogic DNA informed our features, the user experience, and our relentless focus on accuracy and efficiency. So why is rDCF special? Why should you consider it? Well, we like to use a transportation analogy. The first mile, last mile problems generally receive a lot of focus. The first mile refers to how easy it is to onboard someone to rDCF and to get them to be productive. And our reLogic DNA gave us a lot of experience integrating with a wide variety of CRE software, the likes of VTS, Yardi, MRI, JD Edwards, back in the day, Dyno, before that Project, all manner of Excel and custom databases, and most importantly, our Argus DCF and our Argus Enterprise import capabilities. Simply put, we have the most robust import capabilities in the marketplace. We also have an Excel import and export feature that allows us to import new data from scratch, update existing data, or do a mixture of both, all within Excel, very efficient, leveraging a tool that you all know well how to use. Being an enterprise cloud app, you can also have multiple users in the same property editing simultaneously. There's no cumbersome checkout or check-in functionality. We also offer free 30-day trials, so there's never any concern about sharing it with anybody else. They can always get a free trial and kick the tires. And the app is incredibly easy to use. If you have any experience with CRE valuation software, you should be proficient in an hour or two of training. We have a robust knowledge base. We also have interactive walkthroughs sprinkled throughout the app. Something else we've noticed is that a lot of potential competitors to the incumbent products seem to not quite be calculation sufficient. And what do we mean by calculation sufficient? Well, you've got to be able to model percentage rent. It's got to be able to have multiple overage tiers. Your pro rata recoveries must allow for controllable versus non-controllable expenses and have them capped separately, anchor contributions, other complex cap and floor scenarios. These are things you're going to see out in the wild, and with our reLogic DNA, we couldn't release without having that kind of functionality taken care of. So you're going to have a solution in rDCF that allows you to deal with anything that you could possibly come up with from a leasing perspective. To continue our transportation analogy, we use Excel as a round-tripping device. So at a portfolio or folder level, we can export to Excel a big modeling parameter, such as inflation for all of your properties. Make a change, maybe add or remove 25 basis points, and then re-import that Excel file, that updated Excel file, and we can be updating hundreds of properties in literally minutes. The last mile is probably the most important and paradoxically seems to have received the least amount of attention from the incumbent software providers. Debt, complex waterfalls, offering memorandums, broker's opinion of value are frequently done in Excel, and rDCF has the most robust Excel underwriting workbook in our industry. It can be used for single assets or portfolio properties. It includes dynamic valuation assumptions, in-place lease analysis for debt and lenders, complex debt and waterfall modeling, market and lease analytics, and just a whole lot more. 15 to 20 tabs worth of information at your fingertips, all without cutting and pasting. It's an amazing game changer, and we'll take a look at it in the upcoming demo. All of our reports, including our industry best audit reports for recoveries and percentage rent, are in Excel with formulas, ready to print, presentation quality. Finally, we can give you a free 30-day trial. So we encourage you to go to our URL after our demo and sign up for our free 30-day trial. If you reach out to us, we'll even convert a property or two from competing packages. Let you kick the tire with the property that you know. So without further ado, I will get us to our actual demo. So here we are. We're inside our DCF. The first thing I want you to know, I'm going to hit some hotkeys here, Control-Alt, so I can see all of my hotkeys. You can see along this left navigation panel here, I have all the things that I would commonly use to model a property. If I clicked on, I'm in a property called Cap Rate Tower. If I clicked on my rent roll icon here, I can see tabs off to the side. All the tabs are numeric, 1 through 5 in this case. So if I wanted to do at my market lease, I could say Control-Alt-2. If I wanted to go back to my folder, I could do Control-F. And the folder is really important to us. So a lot of clients said, you know, this two-dimensional scenario and portfolio isn't working for us. We need to have hierarchies. We can say it's our 2009 properties, it's our best case scenario, our worst case scenario. Maybe they want to create another version. They can just right mouse click, hit copy, go to the folder above, and then do paste. So what this is going to do is give me a new folder called best case -1, and I can go ahead and rename it. We call it, you know, most probable. With that created, I can again double click on the file and I'm into the building. Going back to the folder explorer, in addition to having this nice hierarchy, I can also search. So I could say what starts with PAC or what starts with CAB. So you've got this environment where we can put in this nice hierarchical thing. We can right mouse click things, rename things, add new properties, copy, paste, just all with this Windows metaphor that you've become comfortable with. So we think this is a bit of a game changer. I'm going to go up to my best case, and I'm going to click on Cap Rate Tower. So the majority of the work you're doing is at the property level. And I'm going to do a quick look at our rent roll. So Control-Alt-R gets me my rent roll. And the first thing I want you to notice is there's not many columns here. I don't have to scroll very far at all to get to the end of my rent roll. You see my notes. So a lot of competing packages just keep adding rows upon rows. So you're scrolling out hundreds of columns. And we definitely didn't want to burden our users with that. The other thing you'll want to note is there is no edit or save button in the application. Everything is being auto-saved for you as you move along. If I hover over things like my detailed rent, I can see my future rent steps. And I'm just going to show you a hotkey, Control-Shift+. This can be used practically anywhere to add a new row. So I'm going to put in row 1000, and I'm just going to call it Test Tenant. And notice there's no need for me to hit Edit. There's no need for me to hit Save. Everything's being saved on the fly. I could say it starts at month 7 of the analysis. It's a 60-month term. It's 2,000 square feet. And then you'll see these little arrows here, left arrow, right arrow. This is something that's unique to our app. It's called an input carousel. So if I had a tenant that just had a flat rent, I could type in $30. Maybe they had an increase in the future, I could use one of my named increases or add additional increases. But I could also choose to do what we call detailed input. Let's say I'm going to lose my change for the basic input, but I could say, you know, on month 1, it's $30. And then again, that Control-Shift+, on month 13, it's $32. And if I do Control-Shift+ again, I could say month 25 is $34. Now, if I wanted to delete a row, Control-Shift-. Again, if I wanted to add it back, Control-Shift+. And also notice here, things are being highlighted in red. And we'll look up here, we've got a review inputs. And it's telling me that I'm missing input in my rent steps. So in addition to auto-saving, it's also taking a look and making sure you're not missing anything that might be required. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that row, and my work's done, and all of a sudden my validation says everything's great. So this input carousel allows us to have far fewer columns. So as opposed to giving you every possible input mode, we give you a carousel that allows you to rotate through them. I'm going to hit Escape, and then we look at free rent. If I wanted to put in, say, 2 months at the front of the lease, it's right there. Again, it's my default. I could give away true free rent, rent plus recoveries. Speaking of recoveries, we could spend a whole bunch of time here. I'll give you the brief overview. You can do any of these type of recoveries, so named recoveries, which you can use in both market leases and lease-up tenants, groups of recoveries, and of course, by far and away the most popular is a pro rata recovery. You can select as many custom recovery pools as you'd like, say a natural or a specified pro rata percentage, choose your own custom denominators, put in your own stop types with the historical stops, maybe it's an office tenant, and we've got full cap features, so we can cap both the recovery amount as well as the recovery pool, allow you to model controllable versus non-controllable expenses, etc. So a really, really robust calculation engine and something that makes recovery modeling very, very easy. TIs, if I had, say, a $30 TI, I just type in 30, it knows that TIs default to amount per area. Again, just lightning fast input. If it's going to be a 6% commission, I'm done. At the end of the lease, you have the ability to have a weighted average speculative renewal, which is what's typically used, or you can have an explicit option. Say they renew at 100% chance or vacate at 100% chance, or choose to say none, and the suite goes away. And of course, you can have as many options as you'd like. The options can have any number of detailed input. So, real quick overview of our rent roll. Another area I'd like to show you are our line items. So you spend typically a fair amount of time putting in tenants in the rent roll and also putting in line items and expenses. And you can see here that we've got things that are entered various ways. A capital reserve that's put in at 15 cents per the total area of the property. We've got a janitorial expense that's put in against the occupied area. And I just thought I'd show you again with my hotkeys here, Control-Shift+. I'm going to add a new expense, account code 60,000, new expense, and I'm going to show you all of the input modes. So amount for typical annual inputs, amount per area, usually used for variable expenses, percent EGR, so this would be a real simple management fee solution. Percent of line items, this could be for recovery pools or maybe a more complex management fee solution. Percent of tenant revenue, I can get various percentages of individual tenants, maybe a complex management fee or some other recovery scheme. I can do detailed input as far as the analysis goes. So lumpy sort of input, maybe a CapEx spend, etc. I can do that in a per area basis, decide what area measure that's based on, occupied or total area. And I can also do detailed percentage of line items, so I can have time variant percentages of things. So all of this without introducing tens or hundreds of columns. So this input carousel, which you see throughout the application, is a real game changer and allows for exceptionally rapid input. The other thing I'd like to show you is our ability to trace items. So I'm going to do Control-M, and that gets me to my property market. The first tab there is inflation. And I'm just going to look at an inflation called aggressive. Apparently aggressive is 6543, and maybe I think that is too aggressive. So I'm going to take a look at our trace functionality. So trace tells me where is this used in my analysis. It looks like it's in two places. I can use trace with replace and say, let me just use my standard market rent assumption. It takes just but a second, and I will no longer have anything in my aggressive. My market rent now has new places. So trace and replace is a really nice bit of functionality that can save you a ton of time. So I'd like to focus less on the inputs and more on the outputs, because this is really a game changer for our industry. So I'm going to take a look here in my worst case folder. I'm going to double click on Pack Tower. The reports are down here, Control-O, and I'll just show you what one of our cash flow reports looks like. This can be run annually, monthly, quarterly, with recovery display, etc. And that report's popping up right now. And again, great presentation quality report. It's available in seconds. And I've got formulas. If I hit F2, I can see all of my formulas for the cash flow. So again, if I needed to embed this in an offering memorandum or a broker's opinion of value, I've got all this functionality, all this wonderful reports with formulas, and it makes it very easy to leverage and reuse. Another report that I think is a real high value is our rollover report. So this is going to show me all of my tenants, the year they expire, the last rent and recoveries, if any, paid, and then the market condition. And I just managed to run the wrong report. Apologies there, rollover report. and I'm going to choose all rollovers. So again, less than a second, it's in my download folder, and I can see the last rent paid, the rollover or market rent, and then I can see my uplift, if any, or possibly decrease. So we can see on a tenant-by-tenant basis what the increase or decrease is from the last rent and the market rent. Another great report is our full tenant detail report. This allows us to look at any component of a line item for, on a tenant-by-tenant basis. This can begin run annually or monthly. In this case, I chose to run it annually, and I'm looking at occupied area. The next tab over is scheduled base rent, scheduled recoveries, etc. So you can see TIs, LCs, any line item you could dream of on a tenant-by-tenant basis is available at your fingertips for great auditing. And what's even more game-changing for auditing are our recovery audit reports. So this is our recovery pool audit report. So one of the big problems with incumbent solutions is people view them as a black box. They have no idea how the recoveries came to be. Well, here we can take a look at all of our recovery pools, see things like here's the gross up for occupancy. In this case, it's grossed up to 100%. I can see the actual formula being displayed here. I can see the pool amount. This happens to have a cap on it with a 15% admin fee. I also have anchor contributions being removed from it. So I get, again, all this wonderful information, and it opens up the black box. I can see inside, and I can prove to myself that my recovery pools are operating correctly. And the same could be said for our tenant recovery audit report. So the first report you saw focused on the recovery pools, the gross up, the caps, admin fees, etc. Now we're going to look at the tenant side of it. So this is going to be a tab per tenant, and I can see all of the math going on here. So I have my pool totals, any contributions, and again, if I hit F2, I can see the math going on here. If there was a stop amount, the numerator, denominator, here's my pro rata share. Here's the annual percent, or the annual actual tenant share. Then it goes on to the next recovery. So these are reports that heretofore just didn't exist. You got an answer, but you didn't know how you got there. So we think these reports, again, are game changers and will really help you understand what you're modeling. Another report we like to focus on is our recovery, is our percentage rent audit report. This gives us a real close window into all of our percentage rent modeling. So I can see the sales amounts, the natural breakpoints or otherwise, tiered overage percentages, etc. So again, we're not just dealing with auditing of complex recoveries, but we get down there to the nitty-gritty and show you how all of your percentage rent calculations are happening. So that's a real quick overview of the reports. I'd like to talk about a couple of things relating to the Underwriting Workbook. And so I created, you click right here and you get your Underwriting Workbook, and they show up on your dashboard. I haven't shown you here, but you can get all of your Underwriting Workbook, see recent properties, and get data exports. And let me just pull up a property. So here I am in my Pack Tower Underwriting Workbook. So in here you can dynamically change your cap and discount rate, change your cost of sales, and of course all of your valuation parameters are being changed on the fly here. We have nifty executive summaries, so you can see summary of your valuation data, your NPVs, your leveraged or unleveraged yields. We have the ability to do in-place analysis, so you can take a look at, underwrite it from an in-place standpoint for our lenders. Very complex lease detail reports where you can see all current tenants, future rent steps, etc. The ability to put in 3 separate notes. I put in a note here that was a 80% loan to value, a 2% loan fee. I'm actually funding CapEx for the first 36 months, so 100% of TIs, LCs, other capital, etc. And I've got an interest-only period for 60 months, and then the amort is on 360 months, and it's a floating rate note. So just really powerful debt modeling at your fingertips. No need to go elsewhere for your debt model. And then perhaps even more sophisticated are waterfall inputs. So you can have multiple limited partners, have multiple tiers with or without catch-ups. And again, this is stuff that we've done for over a decade. It's just industry battle tested. And we think this will become the industry standard for underwriting purposes. And this is that last mile that we really feel hasn't been properly addressed in the application. So I think I'm going to go ahead and show you one last thing, and then we'll take some questions. So I mentioned about that Excel round tripping. So I want to go into a folder right here, and I'm going to go to my folder import export, and I'm going to export inflation. So here's inflation. I click on the export button, and it's telling me I might have a validation issue on a property, and I'm not surprised by that. I'm going to click on my inflation my inflation export here, and off to the side I'm going to type in 0.25, and I'm going to copy and paste this. So I'm going to say paste special, and I'm going to add 25 basis points onto everything. So delete this, I'm going to save this, and then what I'm going to go ahead and do is go to my download folder, and you can see I have this brand new inflation, and I'm going to literally drag and drop it into my update. So watch what happens. It takes a look at the Excel file, and it's saying, hey, I'm going to update 27 rows. So it gives you a manifest. It tells you exactly what it's going to do prior to doing it. And I'll take a look at the property and take a look at any of them, and I'll take a look at my inflation, and notice everything has a 1/4 point increase. And one nifty feature, I can go between all of the properties in my folder and see all of the changes. So it's very rapidly go and analyze all of our inflation. So that's it for our demo. I wanted to see if we had any questions out there.